City.
What about, as Craig said, they've never done it before, might get nervous. All about, that first.
Yeah, I don't want any part of Manchester City. Just think about it. And I just talked about the midfield and just the midfield in itself. The chasing and running around of all the moving parts and pieces for Manchester City, and Inter having to cover that ground with the players that I just mentioned. It's a mismatch in that area of the field. And then that's going to pull center backs out of position. It's going to pull outside backs out of position. And then that only opens up overlapping runs and inside runs and Erling Haaland running in behind. And the more you think about it, you're like, yeah, okay, well, give me Real Madrid. But then it's Real Madrid in a Champions League final. And what do we know about Real Madrid in Champions League final? They don't lose. But if you're picking and choosing as to who we have a better chance against, it's Real Madrid, who have been the more inconsistent team of the two teams that are left available.
Well, they have kept a lot of clean sheets, to be fair, Inter Milan. But then the counter-argument is the teams that I mentioned earlier, who they've come up against.
Yes.
Now, they did come out of the group, which involved Bayern Munich and Barcelona, so they topped Barcelona in the group stage. So people might say that's a feather in the cap. It is, but then that slightly falls down when I tell them Man United beat Barcelona in the Europa League. So this is a huge step up for this Inter side. All the experience in the world's fine, but who's going to run away from Laporte? From Diaz or Walker or Stones or Ake? Lautaro Martinez? No, definitely not Dzeko. If it is City, that is. Definitely not Lukaku. So they have to find a different way. Right. If it's City, it's a tough road to try and find a victory for Inter in the final.
And to that point, I would also say this. Inter is one of the few sort of big teams around the world, big name teams around the world that actually plays with two strikers, right? If you're going to be struggling through the midfield because of the things that we have just mentioned, you may have to drop off one of those strikers into a more defensive position. So that then you're now losing out on some of the things that you do well. The goal today comes from that little combination between the two strikers, and the two strikers in general, whether it's Dzeko, Lautaro Martinez, or Lautaro Martinez and Romelu Lukaku, they seem to have a good understanding as to what their work is in the attacking half. But if one of those guys has to drop in because now you have mismatches in terms of numbers, now you don't have that connection, and so then it limits Inter even more so than what Greg is mentioning. It's difficult to see.
Pick your poison.
Italian fans of the Milan and Inter, Italian fans, Serie A fans, just going to be hating on us. Hating on us.
And look how much you love that.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.